The first alert arrived at 2:14 a.m. The vibration was so violent it nearly shook her phone off the nightstand. Maya fumbled for it, her heart thumping against her ribs. The screen was stark white, the text a jarring, aggressive black. Emergency warning, this area will become unsafe. Evacuate all non-essential personnel. A cold dread washed over her, but it was the timestamp below the message that truly sent a shiver down her spine. Sent 12 hours ago, 12 hours. She scrambled out of bed and rushed to the window, pulling back the curtain. The street below was exactly as it should be. The orange glow of the streetlights painted long, lazy shadows on the empty pavement. A stray cat darted across the road. Everything was quiet, normal to normal. She shook her head, trying to clear the lingering fog of sleep. A glitch, it had to be. Some system error, a delayed message from a test that happened yesterday. She tried to reason it away, but the feeling of unease clung to her like a damp coat. She checked the local news websites, social media, everything, nothing. No warnings, no incidents, no talk of any emergency. It was as if the message existed only on her phone, a private, personal premonition sent from the past. She finally convinced herself it was a fluke and crawled back into bed, but sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the old apartment building, every distant siren, made her jump. The image of the stark black text was burned into her mind. This area will become unsafe. By morning, the sun streamed through her window, a cheerful, almost mocking light. Maya felt exhausted, the night's anxiety having taken its toll. She made coffee, the familiar ritual, a small comfort. Then her phone buzzed again, and again, and again. A cascade of notifications, one after another, each more frantic than the last. She picked it up, her hand trembling slightly. A list of alerts, all with outdated times. 7:05 a.m. Evacuati, immediately, severe weather warning. Tornado formation detected, sent 18 hours ago. Her eyes flicked to the window. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue, no wind. 7:12 a.m. Chemical leak detected. Do not breathe outdoor air. Seal all doors and windows. Sent 15 hours ago. She took a deep breath of the fresh morning air coming through her open kitchen window. It smelled of cut grass and dew. 7:20 a.m. Active threat in your vicinity. Shelter in place. Do not remain indoors. This is not a drill. The contradiction was laughable. If it wasn't so terrifying. Shelter in place. Do not remain indoors. Sent 10 hours ago. It was a digital ghost. A chronicle of disasters that had already run their course. Somewhere else. For someone else. But why was she getting them now? She called her mum. The line was busy. She tried her best friend Sarah, straight to voicemail. She went online. News sites were still reporting on mundane city council meetings and traffic jams. Social media was a stream of breakfast photos and celebrity gossip. It was just her. She felt a profound sense of isolation, like she was the sole audience to a tragedy that had already ended. The alerts kept coming. Flood warning. Seek higher ground. Sent 9 hours ago. Wildfire approaching. Evacuate east. Sent 7 hours ago. Each message painted a picture of a world falling apart, a world she couldn't see. She tried to turn off the notifications, but the option was grayed out. She tried to power down her phone, but it wouldn't respond. It was a hostage, a screaming messenger she couldn't silence. The battery icon showed it was draining rapidly, yet the screen remained blindingly bright. She felt a frantic urge to get out, to prove the alerts wrong. She grabbed her keys and jacket and headed for the door. As her hand touched the doorknob, a new alert flashed. Structural instability detected. Do not use elevators or stairs. Remain in your unit. Sent 4 hours ago. Maya froze. She lived on the 12th floor. The message was so specific, so personal. Was it a coincidence? Or was the system learning? Was it closing in on her? She backed away from the door, her apartment suddenly feeling less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. She was trapped, caught between warnings for disasters that had passed and the horrifying possibility of one yet to come. The digital clock on her stove ticked over. 10 a.m. A sense of finality hung in the air. She stared at her phone, waiting. The screen was dark for a full minute, an eternity of silence. Then it lit up again, but this time it was different. A single, shrill tone blared from her phone's speaker. It wasn't the usual notification chime. It was a piercing, agonizing screech, like metal tearing apart. It was a sound that vibrated in her bones. And then, it wasn't just her phone. Through the walls, she heard the same sound echo from neighboring apartments. It rose from the street below, a symphony of digital screams. Every phone, every tablet, every device in the city was screaming in unison. The sound was deafening, a unified chorus of panic. Maya clamped her hands over her ears, but it did nothing to block out the noise that seemed to be coming from inside her own head. She looked out the window. Down on the street, people were stopping in their tracks. Cars swerved and halted. Everyone was pulling out their phones, their faces illuminated by the screens. They stood frozen, like statues, mesmerized by the digital siren's call. Then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. The silence that followed was heavier, more profound than any sound. It was an absolute, suffocating void. And on every screen, on Maya's screen, a final message appeared. There was no capitalized warning, no urgent command, just a single calm sentence. And this time, there was no timestamp. This message cannot save you. Below it, a new line of text flickered into existence. You were warned. Maya stared at the words, her blood running cold. You were warned. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a system error. It was a countdown, a chronicle of doom delivered piece by piece, always too late. The warnings were never meant to save anyone. They were a taunt, a final, cruel joke before the end. Outside, the world was unnaturally still. The people on the street hadn't moved. Their faces were still bathed in the pale light of their phone screens, but their expressions were slack, their eyes vacant. The stray cat she'd seen earlier lay motionless on the pavement. The leaves on the trees had stopped rustling. The sky, that brilliant, cloudless blue, seemed to have frozen in place. It was a photograph. A perfect, silent, terrifying photograph. The alerts had stopped. So did everything else. Time itself seemed to have complied with some unspoken, final command. Maya looked down at her own hands. They felt heavy, distant. She tried to move her fingers, but they wouldn't respond. She was a statue in her own living room, her eyes locked on the phone, still clutched in her unmoving hand. The last message glowed, a final epitaph for a world that had been warned, but never given a chance. The battery on her phone finally died. The screen went black, and Maya, along with everyone else, was left in the dark, silent and still. The last thing she was aware of wasn't a thought, but a feeling. The chilling, absolute certainty that the emergency wasn't coming. It had already happened. The alerts hadn't been late. They had been perfectly, horrifyingly on time.